And so right where they stood, God said, I don't want a rock that you're not standing on. I don't want a rock that you're not standing on. I can't use a rock that you didn't stand on. It is not the rock by itself, but it is the combination of rock and feet. Truth and conviction. Every place where the priest's feet stood firm, take a rock. So when all of the children of Israel had passed over to the other side, God said, take a rock where the feet of the priest stood firm, because I'm going to turn your moment into a memorial. A memorial is something you remember. A memorial is something you teach your children. A memorial is a standard that sets you apart from other people. A memorial is your story, your history, your destiny, your legacy is all tied up to a bunch of rocks. Look at somebody and say, it's all about the stones. The stones, the stones, the stone. Don't leave it till you get your stone. Don't leave it till you get your stone. You need something to prove to the world. I was there when God made a way out, and I was there when the tides began to turn. I was there when the NFL offered an apology. I was there when the statues began to fall. I was there when they banded the Confederate flag. I was there. I was standing. I was standing right there. I was standing right there. I was standing right there. And the Bible said that the priests were forbidden to leave the Jordan without the stones. Too many times we leave our Jordan without getting our stones. Too many times we're just glad to get by and we don't get nothing out of it. Don't go into a meeting you don't get nothing out of. Don't let anybody take up your time with something you don't get nothing out of. God said, I didn't take you through all of this for you to not get something out of it. Get something out of it before you leave. Now imagine the waters are standing on ahead and we're running out of time, and the priests who already got a load got to reach down and get a stone. The stones are so important that God added more weights. This is the weight of glory. Glory costs you something. Glory is heavy on your shoulders. Glory, oh, y'all, I got to quit. Glory adds to your load. Hallelujah. But they carried it out. They're carrying stones in mud. They're carrying stones along with religious artifacts. They're carrying stones weighted down with the armor of their garment, but they carried it anyway because God said, your children need to see your stone. Even as I preach here today, my youngest son is standing here to my side. I want him to see my stones. Know that your daddy is a fighter. Know that your daddy will step in a building and fight by myself. I want you to understand that a crowd does not define you. That if God be for you, he's more than the world against you. And when all hell is breaking loose, you just stand. Somebody holler, stand. This is something you can't get out of a book. It's got to be modeled in front of you. You got to see it in your life. You got to be able to point at it. You got to have enough sense to recognize it. And there ain't nothing but stones. There ain't even books, but they're teaching a class. Take these stones and pile them up where you live. So that when your children pass by and say, what mean these stones? You tell them, baby, it's all about the stones. It's not about the jewelry. It's not about the gold. It's not about the bank account. It's not about the silver. It's not about the money. It's not about the house. It's about the stones. If you got the stones, you can build a house. If you got the stones, you can get the gold. If you got the stones, you can get the silver. It's all about the stones. It's the stones you got. It's the fight you got. It's the stand up you got. It's the force you got. It's the tenacity you got. It's the fight you got. It's the drive you got. It's the relentlessness you got. And you got to stand there though they keep slapping on you, talking about you, laughing at you, lying on you, trying to kill you. You just stand. And so I preach this message today to say it's all about the stones. Because the Bible said, when your children ask you, what meaneth these stones? Tell them how the Lord was with them when you were in the middle. In the middle of the Jordan. That is the message. The stones are the message that are transgenerational. It is the stones of the 60s that the 2020 stand on. If we hadn't done what we did, you couldn't do what you're doing. So it's not a competition, it's a collaboration. It's not this is better than that, it's this and that. It's not either or, it's and both. Every liberty in this country has been controversial. Women coming out of the kitchen was controversial. Getting the right to vote for a woman was controversial. Women used to be considered property. It was controversial. They whipped their women like they whipped their children because a woman was a child until women got tired of it and they fought back. I'm talking about white women and brown women and black women and poor women and rich women got together and demanded that they were human, not just sex objects, not just deposit boxes, not just something for you to drop a baby into. Women insisted that you accept the fact that they were brilliant and were competitive, but it was controversial, and it's still controversial, and they're still fighting, and it ain't over yet, but they made good ground. This country was controversial. It was born out of conflict. It was born out of warfare. I hate debate. I hate the wrestling. I hate the struggling. I hate the looting. I hate the drama. I hate the confusion, but if it wasn't for that, there wouldn't be America.
Come on here.
Because July 4th was a revolution. It was a fight. It was a mutiny. It was looting. The Boston Tea Party was looting Boston stuff. An act of defiance is what founded America. And even though I don't like it, I understand that some folk won't move until radical people speak up. Your heroes were revolutionaries. Your patriots were fighters. Your patriots, founding fathers of this country, were people who demonstrated against Great Britain and overthrew their product and dumped it into the sea to let them know. The truth of the matter is, freedom has always been a bloody business. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying it. It can't be right when you do it and wrong when somebody else do it. If it's going to be wrong, let it be wrong to the Indians. Let it be wrong. We have a way of justifying. We have a way of justifying it when it's on our side. I heard a lady say that we're better at inflicting pain than receiving pain. When we're the ones inflicting pain, we stand up to it and say it was justified. But when somebody stands up to us, now it's horrendous. How could they do that? It's terrible. I get it. I agree with you. It's terrible. And it was terrible when you burned down Black Wall Street. And it was terrible when you burned down Rosewood. And it was terrible to the British when you threw over all of that precious tea down into the sea. But that was what freedom caused. When women left the kitchen and threw their aprons down in the floor, it was terrible. Men came home and there wasn't no food in the house. They said women had lost their mind. It was terrible. Every revolution has had its casualties. Only because sometimes peace will not be heard. Dr. King couldn't have been Dr. King without Adam Clayton Powell, without Malcolm X. It was a combination of conflict and peace, collaboratively working together. And even with all of his peace, he was still investigated by the FBI. J. Edgar Hoover still bugged this room. They still labeled him a communist. See, no matter how you go about it, you're always going to have a critic. So here we are. These are our stones. It's shut. The rough and the dirty and the muddy, but these are our stones. Don't let nobody clean them off. Leave them muddy just like they are. History is a muddy business. Hallelujah. It's only clean when you wash it off to make yourself look good. History's always been a messy business. It's always been rough and rugged and ragged. It's always had extenuating circumstances and backroom meetings and sabotages and attack to get us to where we are. And so these stones, these stones is all about these stones. It's all about bending your knee on a football field and being castigated until somebody bends a knee on somebody's neck. It's all about the progression of a conversation that creates controversy and confusion and costs jobs and unfollowing people and rejecting them people and the price people paid for the freedom we have. And that's why the freedoms must be precious, because they are so expensive. They're so expensive. That's why you have to vote, because it was so expensive. I know you're frustrated. You feel like your vote don't count and it doesn't work and they're making it hard, but listen, it was so expensive. Out of respect to what your ancestors died for and bled for and suffered for, if it don't do nothing but just please them to see you go down there and cast a ballot, it costs too much. These were the places where our father's feet stood firm. These were the places my father standing at the back door of the kitchen to get food to feed us in the car. You remember sitting in the car and daddy going to the back door. He could pay for food in restaurants he couldn't eat in, but his feet stood firm. His feet stood firm. Guiding us over to the colored water fountain, but his feet stood firm. Driving to Mississippi at night to avoid the possibility of running into the police, hiding from the KKK. Properties on fire, fields burned up. My relatives. I ain't talking about something I read in the book. These are the stones. My grandmother's body, my great grandmother's body, with a brand on it, where a hot iron had been put to her naked skin to show who owned her. I knew her. These are our stones.